I'm going to call to order the Playground Working Group meeting of the Darien Parks and Recreation Commission. Special meeting, Thursday, January 19th, 2023. It's 8:56 a.m. The first item on the agenda is to discuss and approve final playground surface color from Creative Recreation for McGuan Playground. Pam, what did we decide?
We had two colors. I left them out at the front desk. I'm uncertain as to how many people. I know Patty came and took a look. And Patty, to confirm your choice, you really like the sand mixture rather than the green and black. Yes. I am open to either. I think either will be great, but I'm kind of leaning toward the sand as well.
I think because, and again, that's why it was so amazing that you were able to get the samples, but it felt like the green was going to conflict with the green on the surface play. And also it just darkened the whole area instead of a lighter, it was a darker green. And then I think we originally had concerns about like a lighter surface, but per Susan's comment, with the sand, there were so many of the black spots or whatever that's made out of all together that the surface, I thought it enhanced it, the light, the tanner color.
I agree.
Sarah, what do you think?
I saw it a while ago. I could go either way, kind of like Pam. I mean, I definitely get both arguments. Yeah, I feel like it's brighter to do the tan. So I feel like we'll be happy either way, honestly. I'm sure the green, I'd probably lean towards the tan a little bit more. Yeah.
I agree. A little bit more pop.
Just a little more pop. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it'll keep it a little cooler because that's full sun there and we don't have much shade now.
Exactly.
So I think it would be great. But at the same time, the dark that comes through some of the sand will kind of hide any imperfections because that's the disadvantage of a light color is that if there are like dirt, like anything that happens on it, but there's enough like mixing of the other tones of black, darker shades that we're not going to hopefully hit that issue, so I would definitely lean towards the lighter. But it sounds like we're somewhat in agreement, so I don't want to spend too much time on this. And
I agree. Plus, I want to really get that order in. I'm a little anxiety when it comes to like maybe getting this order and making sure it's in alignment with everything else.
Okay. If you know what, do you mind doing that? And can we have our playground rep maybe do like just like a sample of that, just like so we have the final look, so we could send it around to everybody. Sure. Like to say we decided on the sand and we'd like to see it with the colors we've chosen for the playground. It's obviously not 100% because it's just a representation, but I think it'll give everybody a sense to look at it, a time to look at it real quick.
Okay, sure.
We're not going to change our minds, but I want everybody to see it, sure, before we do it, especially since we don't have the full group here. If that's okay. What do you guys think?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a great idea as we're in the budget season in case the selectmen or board of finance or even people on the RTM say, oh, well, let's, can we see what that finished product's going to look like? Even though it's ARPA money, it's still good to be able to have a visual to show people.
Yep.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Let's do that, Pam. Let's see if we can get that out quickly. And then we'll just, that's the color we're going to go with. So,
sounds great.
Just in case anything's clearing, that's good to know. Okay. The next thing is where we're going to talk about like what's going on, the next steps for McGuan. And since we just figured out the playground material, like the surfacing, I should say. But do we have I guess at this point, the timeline is really based on what we get from Creative Recreation. So if we could find out what their ideas are with when they think the materials are going to come in, and because they're running the whole show, which is great. We don't have to worry about coordinating demo and stuff like that. So
it's just a follow-up. I need to follow up with him, place this. Well, first I'll ask for this new current design with the tan surface. And in that same follow-up, I'll make sure that we're on schedule. Does he know we're on schedule for all the other equipment? How long will it, because obviously the surface has to go in first. So I want to make sure.
Actually, I think the surface was last, if I remember correctly. Because of the pour and play, you have to have everything like installed. And then what we did was we then had to rope off the area because there was a gap between when that surfacing went in and when the playground was actually finished.
Yeah, I think
So
you're right.
when we
Yeah.
finally
Yeah.
had a chance to do the pour and play, we had to rope off, and it has to cure for a certain amount of time. So there's going to be downtime with all of that. And maybe if he could go over that with us, that would help us, is to say, hey, the playground's gonna, demo's gonna happen around this day, playground's gonna be installed around this time, and then it's gonna take us like a week or two to get the surfacing on, and then how long does the surface need to cure? Things like that. I think it'd help the group just process.
Sure.
I mean, we can't change it for obvious reasons, but we should know what the process is and how much downtime, and how, if we have to, do any like communication on like that people can't access the playground at certain times,
Okay. Yep, I'll do that follow-up. I mean, he's pretty responsive. So,
And I definitely think it would behoove us whenever we kind of know that as it gets closer to kind of put up signage. I mean, it can, nothing fancy, but just something to kind of give the moms and the nannies a chance to know, oh, this week, this 2 weeks, this playground is off limits. So, because nothing's worse than like getting the kids out, getting the stroller, and then they're like, oh, I can't go to the playground. So
totally.
just as much heads up,
We can do an article in the newspaper. That's a great follow-up, Sarah. Thank you to Susan's comment.
Yeah,
We can do an article in the paper that can also show that design. So get people excited about it. We can have a mention in Monica's newsletter, which will be great. And then any other, we can put it on Moms of Darien and all that.
Yeah,
it's a wonderful way to build the excitement about it.
Our
and
email
Pam,
blast
as
is
you
great.
know, when you had to close part of Cherry Lawn down, when you were installing some of the new things in the little kids playground, you just had signs up. It worked. They went to different playgrounds and then they recycled back.
Yeah.
Sounds great. So that's good. We're in agreement with that. So it's all dependent on getting that information from Creative Recreation. So let's get that, dialed in as quickly as possible, right? And go with that.
I'll put that on my to-do list, and I'd like to check it off as quickly as possible.
Thank you,
Great. And
Pam.
just per all of the feedback we've gotten is it was an estimated end of May, early June. And so hopefully that, if it can be earlier, great. We don't expect that. If it's later, just so we have the heads up. So
yeah. Cool. That's good. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is about our next projects, basically. We still have 2 more playgrounds that are pretty big, Cherry Lawn and Baker. I guess we just have to figure out as a group how we want to go forward with this. Like, we obviously put McGuan ahead of both of these, in the beginning of our project. I mean, so I just want to see, if anybody has any preference or what thoughts are, like, what's a bigger priority? Like, are there safety concerns at one playground that we need to hit right away? Or should we work with them together? Like, what's 2 separate working, like subgroups within? Go ahead, Pam.
All right. So just because our park crew is there all the time as well. So they're continuously putting money into Cherry Lawn. So the 5 to 12 playground, we're constantly spending money on all the rungs that are missing. Right now, we have to make a decision on, there's that deck. It's kind of a swingy deck that has a part that, and we had the playground medic.
You're talking about the bridge?
Yes.
Like bridge?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Bridge. So there's a part there that needs to be replaced. It's going to cost, about $700 to do. And so we're making decisions behind the scene, and we had the playground medic group come out and do a screening of all the playgrounds. And so we've been fixing and doing things, and how much money do we put into this playground? Whereas Baker hardly had anything other than age.
The other thing I think maybe we consider, because we put, Pam, you've put new equipment into the smaller kids' playground at Cherry Lawn. We can think about them. They're both at Cherry Lawn, but we can think about them as 2 separate playgrounds there, right? So we could do, just a thought, I'm just throwing it out there. We could focus on doing the bigger playground, because we know that that's where there's concern with, as you're saying, the swinging bridge, but also that overhang that has those circles where if it's a hard surface and a kid falls, I know that specific thing needs to be changed or replaced. So I saw you had all new, it looked like you had a bunch of new wood chips down on the bigger playground too, which looks great. So that I'm just throwing that out there. I'm also very open to doing Baker, but I think the smaller kids playground right now would be my last first choice.
And in my opinion, I would do that. To me, if they're going to come in there and remove things, do it all at once, especially when you're looking at a poured in place surface. You know, you really, you know, again, let's see what the design comes in back in with. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So this first round at McGuan, we chose 3 playgrounds that had state bids already, so we didn't have to go out to bid. Well, there are more Connecticut playground vendors that are on state bids. So I've given some thought to why wouldn't we allow as many that want to give us designs. I mean, there might be like 6 playgrounds, so it's not overwhelming 20. But there are more that would like to be part of this choice of design. So I've talked to Wrk, which Wrk is a big playground outfit, and the representative in Connecticut was, you know, hey, how can we get involved in this? So I would like to get the working group to agree to allow as many want to. Like, if you put it out for a bid, hey, whoever's got the best design, whoever wants, like Creative Recreation, they gave us $25,000 off on their design because they wanted the job, right? So we chose what we thought was the best design. And I think we should kind of put it out there. And I invite as many that want to look at our site, both the 5 to 12 and the toddler area, and design away. And then it's our group's decision, like it was in the beginning, to choose.
So Pam, I just wanted to back up. How much do we have for Cherry Lawn at this point?
500,000, and that includes both. So we don't. And Patty,
so that's something to consider, is that if we're doing we have to think about how we allocate that. I mean, Patty's right. We spent money and time on the little playground, but nothing on the big playground, and it needs a huge and it's a large space. Honestly, it's a big playground, and like, if I think about many years ago doing Playground by the Sound, that was 250,000. That was so many years ago, and materials and everything has just gone up. So I'm not sure, like, we need to figure out where we want to prioritize our money, what we need to do. And I think we need to do all of that before we start reaching out to these playground vendors. And I would love to get a lot of input from different vendors, because sometimes they see things we haven't seen. But I guess for you and for the group is that we need to make sure we have the time to vet all of those different groups. So just to think about that. So I think the first step is this, as a group, say, what do we think are the goals of what we're trying to do at Cherry Lawn, like, and how much we need to do at each space, and then start reaching out and saying, these are the things we need to do, and these are the things we've seen, and, you know, kind of like what we did with the 3 vendors that you did have come back to us. So we don't have the whole committee here, so I'm not sure if we have. I mean, maybe at the next meeting we could have people visit, like, with the job we give them for this meeting is go visit Cherry Lawn, like, look at it with a fresh pair of eyes, know that we have, let's say, about 500 to spend, and that we're going to be out front, that the big playground needs the most work, and then talk about the feedback that you've been getting. Like you talked about, Pam, surfacing is a huge issue for you there. Like, you're constantly replacing things like that. So that surfacing, like, if we did the whole big playground, 500,000 might not even be enough for the big playground.
Yeah, that's a concern. And actually, at one of our last meetings, I think the group, and even you, Pam, we talked about how much that would cost there. And so maybe, you know, maybe one of the playgrounds remains chips, the other one remains, goes to porn play, or maybe it doesn't. The great thing about that is we hopefully we'll have this playground at McGuan in and through the summer. So we'll get a feel for how that pour and play is. We'll also get a feel for how it is in that surface, which is particularly hot there. There's some more tree coverage at Cherry Lawn. So those are things to think about. Susan, what I would recommend would also to your point is, I think field trips. I think Pam, I love the idea of bringing in as many vendors as you want to bring in. I think that's important. And I think that was so helpful the first time because it really showed us what's out there. All three of those vendors were terrific. It really showed us what was out there. We got to ask a lot of questions. Now I think it's really time that we do our due diligence first, visit Cherry Lawn, take a lot of notes. I have a parent who sent me a very detailed things about what she'd recommend changed. And it's an active parent there who's not on this committee. So I'll share that with you guys. But also, like I went to Royal, this was back in whenever it was, October, and took a lot of notes there. And I've gone to, Susan and I went to Mead, which I recommend that everybody goes to. But I haven't been to Tokenique, for example. We
They've
also
done a
go
lot of work
to
on
that
that.
point. The thing that I took away was, and at Hinley, you know, there's these long zip lines at Royal and all those places. We're not going to have the capacity to do a long zip line. And those are also for elementary school kids where it is older. So we can look at those things, but I don't feel like we have to be obligated to do, well, we don't have the space. You may think it's big, but it's actually not big enough to have like a zip line. I think we talked about the high climbing thing that was cool, Susan, that we saw at Mead. That might be the fit at Baker, or maybe that can be at Cherry Lawn. There seemed to be an interest there. Those are the types of things that I think would be helpful. And then I know, Sarah, you had a place that you recommended. Alyssa, if you have a place that we go and look at, we could do it as a group, or we could do, you know, hey, are you available? And then everybody goes at different times.
I think Cherry Lawn is very unique of all our parks. And I would say that that's the most well-loved park without saying it's the highest, it has to serve the most people. So I think when we design this park, we have to keep that in mind that we can't have things that are like one kid can sit on it for like X and like, you know what I mean? We just have limited, we need to serve a lot more kids at the same time than
So
at any other
multiple
park.
things that can handle multiple things. Agreed.
And I think that's when we go forward of the amenities that we want to offer is how many like what structures, what things, like swings are great, but as you know, swings become like they take up a lot of space. We've figured that out. And you know, only a few kids can do it at a time. So so especially parents that have been going to playgrounds recently, what's really kids are excited about that can serve a lot of kids at once, and you know, maybe even cooperative play in some level. I think that's really important now more than ever, is to see these kids playing together and enjoying the space together, meeting new friends, things like that. So why don't we, if people are okay, come to the next meeting in what is that? And what are we doing our meetings now? 2 weeks or a month? I probably, what do you?
Yeah, I think
February 16th or February 23rd, you said.
Okay.
February.
Okay. So we're doing monthly
school
meetings.
vacation, Sarah, school vacation, is that the week of the 16th or the 23rd? Do you know?
It's the 16th.
Okay.
I mean, 16th into the 23rd. It's kind of weird because the Thursday they have off, I think. Or wait, Thursday's the last day. You know, yeah, Thursday's the last day. I'm actually going to be out of town for that Thursday, the 16th, I want to say.
Yeah, the kids are off the 17th, that Friday, and then they're off the whole week of the 20th.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
so
I guess I could do a meeting on the night. Is it the 16th if we need to, because I fly out that day, that night. But yeah, I could do it the 16th if we do it. But let's come like prepared to talk about our wish list for Cherry Lawn and what our thoughts are with, you know, just some big ideas that we can just drill, like, then kind of collapse into something that we can share with potential vendors so that they could start thinking of things for us. Because I think it's kind of back and forth a little bit. It's not like we're done and then it's their turn. Like we saw with the other playground vendors, we had to go back and forth for a while.
Yeah, we want to be collaborative, but we want to come and be maybe more specific this time about things we definitely want. We kind of changed a lot of things towards the end, so if we can be more vocal about things we definitely want there, I think that would be helpful.
We also have more time, like you said. Patty, we have more time to go forward with this. And
Yeah.
I mean, in some respects, it's not a huge rush, but it sounds like from Pam that there are looming, maintenance issues that she needs to address. And the question is whether to spend $1,000 here, $1,000 there to fix what's there, or to kind of start, it's like a car things start to fall apart very quickly once they start, right? And
Yeah.
so we want to get going in a very positive way. But anyway, I think that's important. Let's put Baker, like if we see stuff for Baker that's interesting, we could talk about it. But let's focus on Cherry Lawn next. It sounds like that's the park that needs to move forward quickly. I mean, not quickly, next. And see how, like thinking about how much we do need to do in the little playground versus the large playground. Because like you said, we just spent a good deal of money replacing, it feels like half of it. I don't know. It felt like we did a lot, Pam.
Well, we're going to obviously keep the globe. We're going to keep the 2 small toddler units that we just purchased in the last couple of years. So we're obviously going to keep some things there. We have to keep in mind that you're absolutely correct. When we talk about poured and play surface, it is expensive, but I think the designers can be very creative as to how much they use throughout both playgrounds. They can make it ADA accessible by using, at least getting access to both playgrounds by using the surface and then filling in with chips on other sides. So I think that's going to be the creative part to look at. And we'll let the designers do their magic.
Right. But, we need to get some ideas so we know that we're headed in the right, like is half, for 500K, like how much can we get for it? And to accomplish as much as we need to do. Okay. Is that okay for the group to do that? Like that's our homework assignment. Go figure out what your wish list is for that area and, observe how it's being used. But, go ahead, Sarah, you can go.
Sorry, 2 things. We also, I think, just need to keep in mind, how much is it going to cost us to take everything out? Since that was obviously an issue that we were talking about. And what was it, 20,000 to do? I mean, how much are we losing in our budget to take everything out? Right. So I kind of feel like we need to know that because our budget isn't really 500 for equipment. It's
minus
X something, right? Like, so I think there's that. And the other thing is, for the little kitty area, it's not glamorous, but the fence is horrific. The gates don't close. No one closes them properly. Like, so if we're not going to touch the little kitty area, the fence needs to be changed. Like they're always left open. And so it's almost like, well, we might as well not even have the fence then, because it's just more of an annoyance to like, at least the one side heading to the big kid area, which is less of a danger because it's not near the parking lot. That is never closed. Like,
Well, I think that could be a maintenance issue, number one, like adjust, that's the gate, because I'm there daily also, Sarah, and I see that open and I always shut those. But I think we should also put a sign on it, Pam, please shut the gate each and every time.
yeah,
you go
I
in.
mean,
You know what, Sarah, you're right though.
Yeah.
I've been going for as long as
it's been like that for so long.
And
Like,
it's one of those things that it never closes properly. It's a nightmare. But I also felt like even when we did Playground by the Sound, it's just one of those things. It's just between like maintenance and also the use of it. And we have this frost heave thing, nothing ends up connecting properly again. So that might be something to think about, is do we need a fence around it? And I don't mean it like, I'm not trying to like, it's stuff to revisit, is because it's never going to work properly. And what are we keeping in if it doesn't work? You know what I mean?
if it doesn't work, right.
Yeah.
Well, I think
honestly,
the
fences are
parents like
so
the
much
gate
money.
because it keeps
like-
their little kids in there if they have 3 kids running around. That's what I've observed. But
I
that's
get
part
that.
of what we can ask parents when we're there.
Yeah, no, I mean, and the
Yeah.
other thing is maybe like what we did with Playground by the Sound is you do part of it, like the part that's towards the parking lot, that's more dangerous, but that the part that faces more into the park, you don't enclose the host. I'm just putting ideas out there. I'm just saying we can be creative like that and think about things, because that's where we're kind of doing a whole brand new setup here. But the fence is if we do replace that fence, I can tell you right now, it's a chunk of money. It's probably
It's a chunk of money, right?
It is like a $50,000 project.
That's a thick
if it's done
fence,
right. So it's something to say, if it's not working, like maybe we do, like staggered fencing, there, like where, you don't do a straight out, that kids have to kind of roll around to get it, let's be creative and think about that. But I take your point. You're right. You're totally right about that. It's never worked. It's
No.
Pam,
horrible.
could we
It's
start
horrific. It's
with,
even hard to use, like you said.
could we start
is,
with
it's hard to
getting a
use.
sign there, Pam? A sign saying, please, just have somebody in your office. Now, it doesn't have to be a fancy sign. It can be one of those laminated signs that we do on both sides of that. Please close, on the two fences there. And then
Yeah.
maybe have your guys come and tighten up. I know my pantry door always goes like that. So we can start with that as we're waiting, and we'll see if there's any change behavior as we're getting into planning for everything.
Sure.
You guys, I have to hop. Can I
Okay.
just ask, y'all obviously continue. So we're gonna, February 16th, did that work for all of the ladies who have kids in school? Alyssa and Sarah and Vicky?
So-
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
That works.
Yeah,
Again,
that
I'm
works
just
for
gonna
me
be
too.
jumping on late
Yeah.
like I usually do. I'll just
And
be
the
jumping on out.
8:45, and then you just jump on when you can.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay,
Perfect.
great. Thank you. Happy New Year. Nice to see you all.
Nice to
Bye.
see you.
Thank you.
So just, I think some of you guys missed the beginning of the meeting. So can I recap real quick so you are up to speed? The first item was about the playground surfacing, and we decided that the tan probably gave us the most flexibility and would stay cool and a bunch of other things. But I did ask Pam to ask, I think it's John, right, at Creative Recreation, to provide us with like another final design that includes the new playground surfacing and the playground itself. So we see it as a final, and make sure that, it's to our liking, and that we could use that in the future also when we start communicating with residents about when we are making changes to that space, so they could see what the future looks like. The second thing we discussed was about the timeline of McGuan, that we want to be on top of that too, because we want to make sure that information gets communicated. So again, that's another John thing that Pam's going to find out from John when she thinks the playground's coming in, when demo will happen. We also talked about surfacing, like the playground has to be installed before the surfacing goes in. So just getting communication information on how the timing works, because it takes time to cure that surface also. So we want to make sure we communicate that to the public, so they're not coming to the playground and being like, it's not it's not open yet. So I think Sarah was really good about mentioning that could be a frustration for any of our users. So I thought that was great. And I think everybody was then back for the part about what our priorities are, because Pam talked about Cherry Lawn having some, especially the older playground, having some issues with some of the pieces that she has, been dealing with. So that's why
Replacement parts are very expensive.
she had Playground Medic come and look at all the playgrounds, and Baker didn't have a ton of stuff, or any, I don't know. But Cherry Lawn had a ton apparently. So that's why we thought that's a good use of our time, is to start there first. I don't know if you heard, but the dollar amount for Cherry Lawn is 500,000, and it seems like a lot of money, but for two spaces that are quite large, it's not. So we're going to have to think be a little bit. That's why I was saying with the fencing, we have to be creative, like where we need to spend our money, and the surfacing, like Pam said, obviously we couldn't afford all pour and play for both playgrounds. So once we get what our wish list is, what we think are important need to haves at Cherry Lawn, and then we start talking to potential playground companies, then we can sit there and figure out like where we're at. Like, are we even like Sarah was saying, we have to like have a chunk of money just for removal of this stuff. It's probably going to be at least 50,000. So we really don't have 500. We have probably 450, so things like that. So anyway, I guess that's back to where we started. Do you guys have any other thoughts about what you think we need to do, that, and also what would be easier to Go ahead, Alyssa.
No, I was just sorry. I just hit the button by accident. I was
Oh
just
yeah,
waiting.
that's okay.
Sorry.
No problem. But anything else you guys were thinking for how we should go on as a group. I mean, I think maybe it was Sarah mentioned maybe doing some nighttime meetings. Would that be easier for people or not? I mean, I'm not trying to change things up, but I just want us to have, good timing. Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, I think I mean the hour for me on Thursdays is perfect because I have to sprint out also. But I feel like when we kind of get maybe to more the nitty gritty, or we need to, I just think the group collaboration in person. I know it's harder for Pamela at night, because then she has to obviously get home. But I do feel like it'd just be nice to sometimes do it in person, so we don't feel like we've got an ending point right, within an hour. It might be nice, so that everyone kind of has a chance to kind of go over and process it. But maybe those again can kind of be picked as we get kind of closer to having to make
Do a
certain
special
decisions.
meeting, if we want to do it in person at one point, because we have no idea right now when that would be, but we can
Right.
do a special meeting and do that at any time. I think what's important right now is that we all agree. Again, I'm flexible. I'm an employee. I'll work with you guys, whatever time it works. But right now, am I hearing Thursday, 8:45? It could be 9, whatever you guys want. And then we just need to choose a schedule because we have to post it with the town clerk. So I want to be able to choose that schedule right now, get them down there so that we're all set with time. So in March, there's 5 Thursdays. So I'm wondering whether we want to choose 2 of those Thursdays rather than just one, because one Thursday a month kind of drags out our project.
Yep.
So if we go February 16th, maybe, 3 weeks later would be the 9th, and then we could do the 23rd of March, if that works for everybody. At least that's 2 in March.
Yep.
But
So-
should we, Pam, consider doing one of them as a nighttime meeting? Because in theory, if we start getting playground designs or something, do you think it would be easier to see them? Because that's one of the frustrations I thought when we were doing the playground is like we got like copies of things and then on a screen, and we didn't get like a bigger drawing. It's hard to visualize sometimes on your computer,
Sure.
depending on how you're working. And half of us are working on laptops also or phones. So I don't know. I think we should give ourselves some flexibility to make one of those meetings an in-person meeting
Sure.
so that we can look at stuff if we need to. I don't know, but
I don't think March will be the time for in-person because we won't have any designs by then. So we're still going to be in the phase where people are throwing out ideas from our group. So maybe April we'll start getting vendors.
Okay.
Um,
Ruth,
When is our time? I'm sorry, when is the time frame that we are hoping? I know you said we're a little bit more flexible with this one, but do we have an estimate for when we're hoping? No.
We're just going to let the process take place because I think, Patty, we don't have a deadline to use the money. I mean, I guess the only deadline is going to be somewhat self-imposed for us because we want to make sure that we get especially the big playground up and redone because of the ongoing maintenance that is costing the town a significant amount of money. So, that's would be my inclination. But, I mean, it looked like from McGuan that we had to order now. So like, let's say it's like from when we do a final to when we get product, I'm going to just throw something out there, like about 6 months, right? Just as a guesstimate. So if we think we're going to end our process, let's say in the fall, we could maybe do it might be a 2024 project, right? That gets installed, but kind of similar to our timing for McGuan. So it could be, the sooner we do it, maybe we have more options and flexibility with timelines, the installation. So the question then becomes like, when is Cherry Lawn the most like heavily used, right? And it's really that park that it's been used all the time, isn't it? Like, and is it like school's out, they use it more or not? I don't know. It's something that, is it geared mostly towards younger kids that are gone? Okay, go Pam.
I just need to interject because there is a deadline on the ARPA funds.
Yeah, what is it?
So I believe it's 2026.
Yeah,
But I just mean, right, it could take 6 months to just under a year to figure out one, and then we have Baker to do. So there definitely is a timeline that we have to follow.
There is, but I meant like in terms of, like we're not nobody's saying to us we need to do it in a year,
No,
but obviously if there's a need at a playground that we have right now, it's sooner. That's why we're prioritizing Cherry Lawn, and that's why we prioritize McGuan, because of the surfacing issues for there.
exactly. So what I think is important today for this group is just, can we say, yes, we all think Thursdays at 8:45. I'll put a schedule together and we agree on that. And then we will add special meetings as we see fit for nighttime or weekends or whatever we need.
Mhm.
Yep. Yep.
People could also
that
do
works.
like Patty's really into doing like field trips. So if people, if you guys want to go together, it's nice also because then, like you can talk while you're there. So you're having like a mini group meeting. So that's awesome too. And feel free to report back your trips. Like I would even write, when we did this for Playground by the Sound, we used to do like reports to the group. Like, I just went to the playground at Campo Beach. This is what I saw. These are the pictures I saw. These are my impressions. I think that would help for people that aren't going to these parks for whatever reason or a little removed, to get your viewpoints. If you guys have time, I'm just saying that it would move the process and also get us on the same page much quicker. Does that make sense? Because I think some of you are already doing it informally, but you could formalize it a little more.
Can I ask a question as well, as we're just thinking about the playgrounds? I know sometimes when I think about like the equipment, I'm trying to look at what our whole town has to offer. And like the elementary schools have like the zip lines, like you're talking about. We have the beach, we have a variety of different playgrounds. Would it make sense to do both at the same time, Cherry Lawn and Baker, or is that too complicated for the people who are building the design? So we can kind of be thinking like, well, we like this, but that would fit better in this place. So, but that one would fit better, rather than doing each one so piecemeal.
That's a good question. The only thing is, I feel like just having done McGuan with you guys, it's just challenging to have more than one thing on our plate. But at the same time, if we are in the process of planning Cherry Lawn, if we see things that you're like, wow, that, I think we've talked about, I think Sarah's talked about like having more of a natural playground. Like we've talked about that a few times, is we could start like putting like a save list for Baker. It could be virtual, it could be actual, whatever people want to do. I just feel like Cherry Lawn is really complicated. And I just feel like we should do that. Unless, there also, the other thing I had thought about when we first started this process was breaking us into subgroups. I think we talked about it, where some people did McGuan, some people do, Baker, some people do Cherry Lawn, but I just feel like we don't have enough of like participants to do that at this point, and active participants, I should say. So I'd like to keep the group together as much as possible and get this one done, in the best way. But if you guys feel like we could hit Baker at some point because we have a lot of time or whatever, I'm happy to put it on the agenda. But with the time limits, it's hard. Go ahead, Sarah.
Sorry, quick question. Two thoughts also on that. Is I think what we could take away from when we're doing Cherry is, if we do see something that any of us are like, oh, that could be really great at Baker, is get the cost of that item, right? So then we can kind of put it to the side, like, oh, that climbing apparatus, whatever it is, like that's 30,000, right? So like if we have this pile of things that we all kind of thought would be awesome at Baker, but it adds up to 300,000. Oh, okay. Well, we can't do all of that, clear, right? Because I think we only have what, like 150 at Baker, 150, right?
Yeah.
But we're not doing pour and play there, right? We think no pour and play. We're not sure. No, not sure.
It just
Okay.
makes it, I think that space is a little hard for pour and play, because the even coming from the parking lot to the playground itself, it's not easy to access. So if we're pour and play, is a lot of that has to do with access, right? Accessibility. And I wouldn't say that's the most accessible park, like for any.
It's cedar chip. What is it? It's just wood chips.
Wood chips.
Yeah,
wood chips. Okay.
Engineered wood chips.
And then there's
Okay,
grass or whatever till you get to the playground, and trees, a lot of trees, in between.
Okay. And obviously the trees. Yeah. And I guess the other thing would be, we know that it's a really small playground, so taking it down isn't going to be a huge cost, right? That's a pretty simple structure. I think I haven't been there in so long.
Yeah,
and then
really one structure.
Really one structure, right? Pam, is there, I know you guys have your, Parks and Recs, book groups and stuff. Is there any way, because I'm also just so curious to find out how much to kind of give us, kind of something to work off of what Mead costs the town to do? Because I know it's pretty new. I'd be curious, like, do you know how much it costs them to do that entire playground at Mead?
I have no idea if that was the school you're talking about.
No,
No.
Mead, she's saying no,
No,
New Canaan,
Mead.
Okay, then.
New Canaan.
Oh, no,
New
Canaan, I
Canaan.
have no
You
idea.
could
but I
probably
can
reach out to your counterpart.
Yeah, I
at
just wasn't sure
Parks
if you
and Rec.
guys, if you knew the New Canaan
No,
Parks and
I
Recs
haven't
person,
seen
or
it, but I can reach out to them.
I'd just be so curious because it's a park that everyone loves, and I
Sure.
think it's a high bar. It's a huge playground. Obviously, we don't have that kind of money, but I think that again gives us kind of an idea of like, okay, that's not attainable.
Sure, great idea.
Actually, I
That's how
feel
much
like
this-
Sarah, I don't think it's such a, I mean, I went with Patty and it was, we did a lot of, we looked at it for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure it's much bigger than what Cherry Lawn offers.
Oh, you don't think?
No,
Oh, I think they have more surface space.
do they? I
No?
mean,
Oh.
it's around there, they do, but
Okay.
the actual spots that are like fenced, I didn't
Yeah.
feel like they were that much bigger. To be honest.
Oh, theirs isn't fenced though, is it? I don't think they have the big kid
Maybe.
area fence.
No,
Mead?
just the little kid areas fenced.
Just the little kid
I
area.
guess it's not really fenced. The big area has the field fencing there. You know what I'm talking
That's
about?
totally set. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
even.
it's
no,
right
I'm not even
there.
talking
Like
about-
it's like not fenced, but I meant like in terms of. But I didn't feel like
Yeah.
their playground was that much bigger than the
Okay.
Cherry Lawn footprint. But again, that's perception. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It might be a little different. But Pam, if you don't mind finding out like how much space they have there, and also the cost that they
I just think it would be.
they
an
have two
interesting-
very different. I think they use two vendors there. I think I remember looking at the signage.
Yeah.
The little kid piece is really neat. But
Yeah, their
That's
little
the
kid
idea.
area is small. Their little kid area is very small compared to ours.
I
think
know they
ours
have
is-
the climbing structures, and it is kind of interesting. I mean, we did, Patty and I, we probably should have written a report. Speaking of report, that's probably what we should have done. We did the visit there and took pictures right before McGuan because we were trying to figure out about height. That's why I think we were like trying to figure out, is McGuan's new playground too high and yada yada. But anyway, it's also about perceptional like space, because I think people think Cherry Lawn. I always think of the big kid area as large because it doesn't have any tree overhangs. It's kind of like really open in that space and a little raised. So anyway, good. The more, like you're right, the more metrics we have about existing projects, it gives us a good sense of what we're up against. So anyway,
Can I just add something in
Sure.
on a completely, sorry, different note, but as I was sitting here while you guys were talking, I was looking up just some creative ideas for the fencing if we did decide to go down that. And something that just popped up online was having the kid, like since we're a community thing, but having the kids, you guys, I'll send the picture to the email, but it's
Yeah.
each kid kind of like decorated a fence post. Right. So these are kid decorated, like it looks like large popsicle sticks, but like it showed some artwork. It was something that must have been pre-done, maybe like elementary, maybe like different community towns or schools can decorate them, but maybe we can use like different material if we do decide to put like a different fence up along where the cars are or something. But it just looks like a fun way of kind of getting the community also involved, and it might help us with like keeping a separation between the two different playgrounds. But just started thinking about out of the box rather
oh
than
no,
a
I think that's
fence.
great. Like that's what it would be great if we did think about things like that, because we have a blank slate there, especially if we have to replace it. I don't know if you've been to Campo, but the way they fundraise for us, they did those little slats and they put people's names on them. So it's the same idea, except I found that, like, this sounds really morbid, but I found them a little bit like felt very like, because they were so like, yours is creative, has color. It felt very like gravestone-y feeling to me. I don't know why, because they were like all uniform and they had names on them. Like, whereas your idea has like color, it's creative. I don't know. So, but I do remember I think that's how they fundraised. That's the way they recognize people. And like for Playground by Sound, you guys know we did bricks. So then the question becomes, if we do something like that, is that a fundraiser? And then it becomes a little more complicated. But anyway, something to think about. But we can like explore, because I like this beginning stage. We should explore. It looks
And it
sounds
could
fun,
be a
though,
separate
right?
project. It could be the fence could be a totally separate project if we wanted to put it in the capital improvement budget.
Okay, good luck with that, Pam. I'm laughing because we just had our Parks and Rec meeting and we talked about money and we're like, wow, our list is always like longer than our arms and we're like, it's challenging, but it's okay. I think,
an
you know,
option.
we should keep things open because you just never know. And I like that this is such a creative group of people that are always thinking out of the box. So I appreciate that. That's part of the reason I like this group so much is that you guys bring so much to the table and we're very fortunate. So let's just do that because like, again, we're getting close to our hour. I know some of you guys, have other things to do. So, and I feel like we've talked about what we need to talk about. So we'll definitely just meet in a month and hopefully we would have done like a lot of research and thought about Cherry Lawn and maybe we could talk about it there and have very focused discussions.
And final thought on the schedule. So I was jotting down days, so I'll put a schedule together. Don't be shocked. Most of the months will have two Thursdays. It allows us the flexibility to just cancel. So if we have things to discuss, then we can keep both dates on. If not, we just cancel a meeting. So we'll just give you flexibility not to have to do a special meeting.
Okay, that sounds great. And, we'll definitely, try to, talk when we need to talk and be efficient with our time. Okay. Thank you guys so much for everything. I hope you guys had a happy new year. Talk
Thank
to you
you.
soon.
Thank you.
Have a great day, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.